Like most people who start out recording gameplay videos for fun, I invested in the Blue Yeti Condenser microphone, which can be seen right here. It's a condenser microphone, which means that it has a fairly high sensitivity, and that means if I'm talking down the street, you can hear me. It also has a fairly large frequency response, and that means that it's going to catch all the low, low, low notes and all the high, high, high notes and everything in between. The range is between 50 Hz and like 20,000 kilohertz or so. For those of you interested, the sound pressure limit, or the SPL, is around 120 decibels. For you people who know what peaking is. More on that later. At the time of recording, you can find the Blue Yeti on Amazon for about $115 US, give or take a few bucks, depending on your choice of color. Links will be in the description for your convenience, and don't worry, I am not important enough for affiliate links. The Blue Yeti has a USB version and an XLR version, which is the Blue Yeti Pro, and that will run you about $200 US. The USB version is short and sweet in terms of setup. You plug it in, and you're basically ready to slay dragons or do whatever it is you do. The XLR version is a little more work, but it has a higher bitrate and the advantage of using a dedicated audio interface to handle things like real-time compression, limiting, and gating. Unfortunately, that interface equipment is sold separately and usually costs a buttload of cash. The Yeti is a side address microphone, which means you talk into the side, not necessarily from the top, because then it sounds awkward. Some neato features this thing has: the front has a volume knob, which is not for controlling the recorded output of the microphone, but for monitoring yourself as you speak. And this can be pretty invaluable for some people who do streaming or commentary. What's more, it has nearly zero delay, which means you won't get all disoriented and embarrass yourself in front of your 10 bajillion viewers. It's also got a mute button, which blinks when muted so that your viewers won't hear any silly things like your mother asking if you've thrown your skivvies down the laundry chute yet. And the bottom of the microphone body has the USB input and a 3.5mm jack for headphones for the aforementioned monitoring. Setting this up is a piece of cake. The microphone monitors its input automatically when you plug the headphones in. If you want your gamer system sounds to come through the Yeti, you can set it up as your default playback device in the sound menu. The back of the microphone is where you'll find your 4 pickup patterns and the gain knob. This is the one that determines how loud you are in recordings or streams. Warning! You most likely don't want to crank this all the way up to max. Like I said earlier, a condenser microphone yields a fairly loud output due to its high sensitivity. Mount Everest won't have squat against the peaks you're going to experience with this knob turned hard over. That being said, I keep mine at around 10 to 11 o'clock. While talking on Skype or in a voice over IP program, I keep the microphone volume in Windows at around 80, and then when I record, I drop that value all the way down to 20. More on that later. Pickup patterns. This microphone has 4 of them. And first of all, don't hold your microphone like this, because it's very susceptible to handling noises because it's got high sensitivity and nobody likes being manhandled. Anyway, the first I'd like to demonstrate is stereo, and that is the little icon that looks like a Venn diagram in the back of the microphone. Now what that means is I can talk to the microphone from the left side and you will hear me coming through your left ear. If I talk to the microphone from the right side, you will hear me coming through your right ear. If I talk to it directly from the front, I will be sounding like I am everywhere. Talking to it from the back, however, doesn't yield such great results. The next pickup pattern on the list is omnidirectional, and what that means is that I can talk to it from the front and you'll hear me sounding fairly good, and then if I talk to it from the side, you shouldn't hear that much of a difference. If I talk to it from the back, look at that, no difference again, and then if I talk to it from the last remaining side, no surprise here, it's pretty much the same. So, that's the end of that. The next pickup pattern is cardioid, and I imagine that this is the pickup pattern that most people will be using most frequently, because this is the kind of commentator, voiceover, podcaster one that most people like. You basically talk to it directly from the front, and that's it. Talking to it from the side, you probably can't hear me so good. It probably sounds pretty tinny or muddy or gross or something. And then talking to it from the back for this pickup pattern is just silly. The last pickup pattern to discuss is bidirectional, and that means this microphone goes both ways. I can talk to it from the front and it'll sound good. If I talk to it from the side, maybe not so much. And then if I talk to it from the back, it sounds good again. Now, what does that mean? Well, this is kind of like an interview mode. Basically, you put the microphone in the center of a room, and you're on one side, your interviewer, or interviewer is on the other side, and you just talk back and forth, and the microphone does all the work. Cool. The microphone comes with one hell of a sturdy stand out of the box. You see this? This, I'm pretty sure, is considered to be a weapon in most countries and pretty much every airline. There's some soft padding on the bottom, which is to help reduce vibrations coming from whatever surface it's resting its little butt on, but it doesn't do it much justice. I will have sound tests coming in now. So this is test number 1. This is with the microphone sitting in front of me, in front of my keyboard. So that's obviously kind of obstructing my way, but in this case, because the microphone sounds best when you're closest, it makes most sense to put it close to you when you're looking for quality sound. So this is with the pop filter because, you know, the pop filter stops, you know, the P's and the B's and the T's and the plosive noises. And this is without the pop filter because it's easy to move. So pop, 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 you know? So, now, pop filter shouldn't really affect a typing test, but here we go because, you know, you need to see if you're using this for game streaming or something, you want to know exactly how much noise is coming through if you're button mashing, basically. So, now this is a somewhat similar setup, except now the microphone is behind my keyboard. It is somewhat far away. I'm going to say it's a good maybe 1.5 feet away from my face right now. It's right there. Here. So, now the microphone is farther away from me. I'm certain it's definitely more difficult to hear me. I'm probably going to, I don't know if I'll bother turning up the gain for this because I don't want to alter the test results, but here's the type test. Okay, so now I have the microphone right here. I don't know if you can see that well or not because it's a little dark, but the microphone is here, I promise. It's black, it blends in with the black background. It's here, I promise. So, it's about the same distance as it was when I was sitting in front of my keyboard, but now it's not in the way of the keyboard, or in the way of the monitor, because before it was here and the pop filter was like covering like the bottom portion of my monitor, and that's not good for people who, you know, actually want to see what's going on. So I'll throw another type test in because that's important. Okay, this is test number 4 now, I think. We have the microphone on a boom arm. Don't bother with this cable. This is for my other mic. You don't need a cable like here. Well, the USB cable you will need, and it's kind of awkwardly stretched across my desk now, but that's beside the point. Now, the microphone is not obstructing my view of the monitor. It's not really in the way of my keyboard. I got plenty of space down here to work. On a boom arm, it's nice because, you know, you can move. I got a squeaky boom arm. It's nice on the boom arm because you can move it out of the way if you don't need it, or move it closer if you're not happy with the sound quality, if it's too far away, something like that. So we'll do another type test from here. Now here we have the ridiculously large Radius 2 shock mount. It's got some girth to it. It's definitely in the way to some extent. It's not obstructing my view of the monitor, but I can't really see my keyboard as well. While there are other ways to set it up, like I can have it hanging overhead, but then the microphone comes hanging down this way, and then that's awkward for me, but you kind of adapt to it after a while. There are other ways you can adjust this. I think you can have it go sideways if you wanted, but I guess I could do that. Let me try that. Okay, wait. I changed my mind. Okay, so the problem with that setup, my boom arm won't hold that type of weight distribution. So we won't do that. I mean, I could tighten the bolts on the arm and it would probably be better, but for now, I'm all set. Although I'm going to have most of the video done with this setup, so I'll just go the type test then. Now, my problems with the microphone. I can't even really call it a fault because the microphone was designed in this manner. The sensitivity is like way high, which is okay. It's good. But it picks up every keystroke and vibration and argument between the neighbors that have happened in the past week and a half. And when I'm trying to do content, those frequencies are harder to remove than that gross and repulsive residue that you get when you try to remove stickers from your fancy new hardware. And yeah. you could hear how the sound quality probably improved a little bit when I had the pop filter on and I had the microphone on the boom arm and then I had the what do you call it, shock mount here. But this stuff doesn't really help the clicky-clacky of the typing. Some people use noise removal to remove the sounds of the keystrokes and the tapping and the vibrations, stuff like that, but my voice is a little bit deeper, and trying to remove those frequencies makes me sound kind of like the robot. Additionally, I do a lot of post-production work with this thing to try to get it to sound as good as it possibly can, and that includes compression, limiting, gates, equalizers, and so on. And I don't have time for that. So like I mentioned earlier that I said I would get to later, which is now, in order to combat the high sensitivity of the microphone, I turn the Windows volume all the way down to 20. And then I boost volume with compression and with limiting in post-production so that I sound normal as opposed to super, super, super quiet. Unfortunately, unless you're using the XLR version of this microphone with like a dedicated audio interface, removing all of that stuff in real time or implementing that stuff in real time is a real pain in the tushy. Which means this may or may not be ideal for streamers that like to go rage mode on the keyboard. This is how rage mode gamers type, by the way. Now, if you can maintain the same volume all the time and keep the volume knob at, or the volume levels relatively equal so that you don't need the boosting of volume later, then that's fine. But you need to kind of train yourself to talk at a very specific spot on the microphone, and when you think you're going to get louder, you're going to back off, and I hit the boom stand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. If you can maintain the same volume all the time, shouldn't be a problem. If you can back off a little bit when you know you're going to get louder, great. Sometimes you just get a little bit excited about the demon you just ganked, or maybe the hooker that you beat with the triple-headed dildo and the 10-speed setting and the Wi-Fi or whatever, then your viewers may find their ears bleeding a little bit when you get all super happy about that. Another option is physically moving away from the microphone when you know you're going to get a little bit louder, but what if you're into spooky video games or something, and then you don't know when you're going to get louder, or something jumps at you and you scream like a little girl, and sometimes you don't know when you're going to soil your pants. So that's just something to keep in mind. My concluding thoughts: it is a great microphone for things like podcasting and Skyping and talking and commentary and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I would recommend it for gameplay streamers or gameplay commentary because of all of the stuff it can pick up. It picks up everything. The way you combat that is by turning the gain really low, but by turning the gain low, you have to physically speak a lot louder, which is okay for some people, but then some people just can't do that, or they're just not accustomed to doing that, so maybe it's not so good. And while you can do things to help reduce the amount of incoming noise that it gets, like getting the shock mount and the pop filter and stuff like that, I want to note that the shock mount is heavier than it looks. My boom arm, like, if you notice, like, it starts to sag, and then it's... No one likes sagging. It's unattractive. However, in the microphone's defense, I do own a keyboard, mechanical keyboard with cherry red switches, and the clicky-clacky nature of the keyboard does the microphone no justice. So, if you're into game commentary, that is something to keep in mind, and you may or may not need to prepare for some audio mastering. So that's all I have to say about that. If this video helped you, if you like this video, if you have been sold on this microphone, or if you've been sold out of this microphone, and, I don't know, if this helped you in any way, leave a like, because cool. If it didn't help you in any way, you can either leave or leave a dislike. Also cool. If you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe, because I want to do more stuff like this, and that would give me incentive. That would be neat. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you eventually.